Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff, mostly related to the workplace and society. And this is our last week to do this before we have to take that final, which is due on the 17th. Is that right?
Right before the 17th, yeah. That night.
Same with the Dudickies paper.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Brother Barney has to get everything graded in that Monday, probably.
Right.
Okay. To start off, we're going to take, I'm just going to tell you what we're going to do, and then I'm going to let you guys be for a couple minutes to think about it, and then we'll come back together. So you're going to pick these from these couple topics. If you have it pulled up, it's a little easier to remember which ones are here. And then you're going to share. So when we come back, you're going to share life experiences that you've had or that have happened in your life. And then you'll explain and then think about how that will relate to the human resource management and what we have learned in this class. So the 5 subjects that he wants us to talk about is substance abuse, divorce/family issues, work/home balance, same-sex relations, and workplace dating/relationships. So pick a couple of those, figure out some, or think about some of your life experiences, and then we'll try to see what we can relate to each other. I'll give you guys about 3 minutes, okay? You guys need a little more time?
I'm good, I think.
Well, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So this second part is the biggest chunk of our whole discussion, and really it's just we're going to tell stories most of the time. That's really what it is. So we're just going to start with you, April, but so you'll just pick a subject that you picked, and then we'll ask a couple questions afterwards, but also relate how the issue would impact the workplace and how you would address to fix it.
Okay. You may have to remind me of those two things.
Okay, I can do that.
Because as I looked at the topics, out of all of the jobs that I've had in my lifetime, I haven't really had a lot of experience with many of those things. So the one I chose was work-home balance, because that's been a big one since I've been married. So my husband is, he's been a police officer for 12 years, and he's been undercover for 9 years. And for 3 of those 9 years, he was heavy undercover. So he, grew out his hair, grew out his beard, wore really grungy clothes. He he was buying and selling drugs, and really had this role of, the bad guy. So we've both been really together on all of his choices for his career in law enforcement. And I've always been really supportive. And so I just continued to be supportive during that time, and didn't really recognize the toll that it was taking on him kind of until later on in those 3 years. But we both recognized it, that, it's hard to live this dual life and have it not affect you. So the balance between work and home during those 3 years was really interesting. We both saw he kind of closed off more. A lot of it, he didn't want to tell me all of the bad stuff that he was having to see and experience, and kind of protect me from it. How this relates to the topics in this class that we've discussed is, I thought of career development. We were both really focused on building his career, and that was part of it. Having that experience and being specialized in that area was huge for his career, and still is. He's just doing a different, kind of a different area of that undercover work. Motivation and safety, that was a safety in the workforce. He had to have a lot of training and education to be safe in that kind of a situation. Let's see, what were those last 2 questions you said? How does it
impact the workplace? So the issue. So, and then how did you address it? I guess this is more towards you and your husband.
Okay.
So how did you guys address balancing work and home balance?
Well, we addressed it with communication. I mean, it was a long 3 years, but, from a religious perspective, we both agreed that it was the gospel and the solidity of our marriage that actually got us through that time and kept him safe. Because, there are a lot of police officers who don't do that type of job very well. And so I think it takes a special individual, and I feel like my husband is very unique in that way, that he was able to successfully navigate that experience. But we both agree that it was because he had the support of me and our children through that time. I didn't make it hard on him. I wasn't like nagging him, or, when he was working really long hours or doing crazy stuff, I wasn't like, I can't believe you're doing this. And, I wasn't nagging
Dramatic.
or complaining, or, it was hard, but we were just really supportive.
Okay. So now, after you told this story and you've shared those two things, it asked us, the other three people, I guess, me, Jovi, and Josh, it's like, do you guys agree that they kind of worked it out together? I don't know how that would work, but I don't know. I think I would agree just because you guys were able to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's not much more to say than that.
Right.
And then it asks,
I agree.
yeah. And have you two have any similar issues with like for work and home place, kind of like that?
For me and Jovi?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Um,
Nothing to that extent.
no, that was the topic I was going to talk about, but yeah, nothing to that extent.
Okay. Okay. Would you like to share that story? Because
Nothing,
sorry.
oh, I was gonna say nothing even close to being that cool either.
Yeah.
I know, right?
That's kind of cool.
I'm Jason Bourne, guys. I was
Literally.
gonna tell you.
Oh, geez.
Okay, so the next part, it says, so Josh, you were going to share in the same topic. What was your story, I guess, or experience?
So I really haven't had too much experience with like any of these, and the one that really came to mind for work and home balance, like going to school, volunteering at the hospital, and like work as well, and then trying to balance that with spending time with my wife. I've noticed that it's taken a toll as well on my wife, and like we've had to work things out, and it's been a struggle at times because we hardly see each other sometimes, and maybe the only time we get to talk to each other is in our commute up to Idaho Falls for school. Not to Rexburg, from Idaho Falls, sorry. But and yeah, and so we've had to work things out, and sometimes it's been really tough. And I know my wife likes to spend a lot of time with family, so we've had to work that out. And sometimes I've had to say no to like volunteering, and I've had to really manage my hours and decide when I was going to be home and spend time with my family versus doing like work or homework and different things. So, but other than that, I really don't have much. So, yeah.
Well, I wrote two things. It's kind of the same thing. So my uncle, he was the bishop, and now he's the stake president, and you can just tell the stress it put on his wife. Even today, even though there's no kids in the house, just being alone, not being able to go do fun things, and then you add work on top of that, and then he's not home for even longer. And so that's kind of goes with that. But also another thing with work and home balance is that where I work, the company just got bought out. The old owners went on a mission. The new owners bought it out. They're from Pocatello. And my boss, she has so much work to do. She's so behind, she has to take stuff home. And she's in the office from 8 to 5 every day. So, yeah. And so she still has to take stuff home. It's almost Christmas break. She's freaking out because her son's coming home from college. Half the employees are leaving, so she has to be there full time. And so I guess in the workplace, the only issue with these three type of stories is it's hard to balance. Like in the readings for the quiz before this, which one was it? It talked about millennials thinking they can actually balance work and fun. And to tell you the truth, I kind of feel like that. Like I feel like I'm that type of person where I want to work, but I also just want to go home and be with my family. Mm-hmm. But right now, my wife works in the morning, and so she doesn't get home till 1 or 2 sometimes. and then I go to work at 3:30. So I only have that hour gap until I have to go to work. So it's hard, and it is kind of funny how we think that there is both fun and being able to work. But I don't know, it's just kind of hard, and we have to communicate better with the whole workforce too. I don't know, getting behind with me, how I would address it is that it will get done. Like, I know I'll get it done, so don't worry about it. Worry about your own stuff. But what do you guys think about saying that to your employees or your coworkers?
Yeah, good luck. No. It's true though. And I feel like my dad's a good example of this because he has his pilot's license. He loves to go sailing. He did martial arts for 15 plus years. He has all these hobbies that he loves to do. But he always, of course, he puts his family first, but when it comes to play and doing all these things, he always makes sure that he puts, besides church, and puts his job first before his hobbies. And I've just seen that, him sacrifice a lot of time for his job. Because he has that mentality. It's like when it's time to work, it's work. If I have any time after, then yeah, sure, maybe I can play. But I've noticed that in my life when I worked at a farm, I kind of had the attitude like I shouldn't have to work this much because I should be able to play too. It's a big difference.
Yeah. Okay, does anybody else have any other stories? Jovi, do you have any other stories in workplace and work/home balance? Or would you like to start the next topic?
Work/home. I've only been married a year and a half. As far as work and home balance, hasn't been too much of a struggle just because we don't have any kids, or anything like that.
Do you work?
No,
Or
I
you
just
just
go to school full time. Yeah. But last semester I was working about 25 hours a week and going to school full time. But it was really nice because my wife worked at a place called The Loft at the mall that was right across the street from where I worked. And so it was kind of nice. Whenever she was on break, my bosses and her bosses were able to plan it so we could be on our lunch breaks at the same time. So it was pretty sweet.
Cool. Okay, Jovi, do you want to start with a different topic? If you have any other stories, do you have any experiences?
Oh no, no, sorry. I can start with a different topic, I guess. Let's see, alcohol abuse and drug abuse.
Okay.
That's actually the reason why my parents got divorced. My mom and dad got divorced when my biological dad got divorced when my mom was 3 months pregnant with me because my dad was an alcoholic, and he started getting into some pretty hardcore drugs too. And that just kind of took over his life. And what's interesting is that he got into those drugs because of his job. He was in radio, which radio, have told me radio in the 80s and the 90s was a lot bigger than it was or than what it is today. and so my dad was especially up in the Portland area. And so just because of that atmosphere that he was always in, he's always going to concerts, he had his own talk radio and stuff like that too. And just that environment kind of took over his life and ended up ruining his marriage. And he was, he got kicked out of the church for a long time, but he's active now again. But it's interesting how your jobs can affect you, not just a good way, but in a really negative way too.
Okay, do you think substance abuse could also bring in the family issues, divorce, same-sex relations, workplace dating, and relationships? Do you think it could bring in another issue instead of just substance abuse?
Yeah.
I'm sure it can.
Because I totally think so.
Yeah, I can see how they could all be connected. I have a really close friend who's kind of what you're talking about, Jovi. Her friend, or my friend, her husband has been in bands their whole marriage, and he got caught up in a lot of that hype and that type of lifestyle, and started abusing alcohol, started heavy drinking, actually got into a relationship with one of his band members, so that's workplace dating and relationships, and ended up having lots of family issues and divorcing his wife over it. So I can see how one can just lead to the other easily.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like my dad.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so would you guys say also in the workplace, a lot of these topics are kind of a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing's happening, another thing might happen, or they're just kind of stuck there and they're just going to keep falling until they can get out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how
That's a good way to put it. Domino effect.
Yeah, that's what, when I was reading the other things or like the topics, I was just like, all these are kind of have a relationship with each other.
Right.
Okay. So I guess Jovi, how would you address drug abuse / substance abuse / alcohol abuse into the workplace?
Whew. That's a good. Just make sure in that kind of atmosphere, it's a little bit more difficult, especially back then in like radio but as far as like, I don't know, I just make sure that zero tolerance for it.
In the reading, it said to do drug tests.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about those?
I thought that was interesting because they pointed out that it really doesn't matter what your business is, that you should have them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And even
It's
talked about
small business.
Yeah.
And some businesses are like legally they have to send so many people a month to go get drug tests.
Right.
That's where I used to work. They had to do that. It was like 2 people every 3 months, and it was randomly picked. They had to go do it. So to go off the drug tests, I actually do drug tests.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the funnest thing, but I work for a counseling center. I'm a secretary, but I'm also the only male during the nighttime. So I have to do a lot of the drug and alcoholic people that are there legally to get off probation and get through court because of their drug addiction or alcohol addiction. And so I have to do that just to make sure they're following the rules. But that's what I think would work unless the management and like the upper levels are part of it too. Like with Joey's dad, I bet everyone was doing some type of drug or drinking, and so it just wouldn't work there. And those are the hard places to get, I personally think, is it's hard to stop abuse there. Do you two, or Josh and April, do you have any other experiences with substance abuse?
I don't.
Just what I've seen in close friends and let's see, some extended family members. I can see how a lot of it's drinking. You know, when they get caught up in their heavy drinking, I mean, it definitely affects how they perform in their jobs. And yeah.
Even their relationships with people.
Right.
It can definitely affect the workplace too and people's safety. One of my older brothers, he's a union worker, and he started getting addicted to pain pills really bad, and he ended up getting fired over it, just because he was showing up late to work. He actually got in a really bad car accident because he passed out behind the wheel on his way home one time. He's working, everything's fine now, but that was definitely a huge trial that he had to go through. And I think he ended up having to be put on I guess he didn't have to, but part of the reason why he was taking the pain medication in the first place was because of his job, just because of the strain. And so, but then he ended up abusing all his medication.
That's hard. Okay, let's get to the next.
Unfortunately, he didn't fall asleep while he was on the job and ended up hurting
Other people.
somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I think drug tests are important.
Just to make sure something doesn't happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And drug tests are a certain way to cover the company's butt too. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'll start with the story that I have. So I'm going to do divorce and family issues. Not so much divorce, but family issues.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's a lot of deaths and all that, and divorces happening. So we could probably talk about divorce for a long time. But with family issues, my aunt, about 10 years ago, was diagnosed with brain cancer. And her son was so devastated that she will die in the next 5 years, because that's what the doctor told everybody. That he would skip school so much, and it was just so emotionally hard on him that he was basically held back a year. So
Wow.
he didn't graduate with the kids he wanted to graduate with. So after that, he went to a different school, online, got his degree at home mostly, and so it was just hard. So in the workplace, when family issues happen, you got to be sensitive to them, just because it could impact them a little or it can impact them a lot, and that's the only way to address it. And I like the little things it said about divorce on the reading.
In the article.
Yeah, and just the tips to be. And I always liked how it said, where is it?
Be compassionate.
Yeah, well, avoid being the go-to person, or avoid being the sympathetic person, basically. I don't know, it's just kind of harder for the person, because really then you have to be there. I don't know. It's just kind of easy to think about to me.
Right, you be compassionate without being like their confidant.
Yeah, or their counselor.
Right, it says direct them to get help from the employee assistance program. It says be a good listener, but refocus the employee to the correct people to get help. I thought that was good. Good information.
And the whole time I was reading that, I was like, oh, I would probably say this. And it was like, don't do that. It's like, crap. I'd be a horrible person to talk to. I guess, do you guys have any experiences in the divorce/family issues that you want to share?
I guess I've seen it a little bit with like my coworkers. Like, I've seen it to where they've like come to work and all they can do is vent about their problems with their family or different things, to where it's affecting how well they're performing at work. They'll spend an hour or 2 hours just raving about this and getting nothing done at work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've definitely seen where family issues, arguments at home can impact just the work environment. But I don't really have any stories.
Interestingly enough, I have more experiences in this topic with work in the service sector of our religion versus the actual workforce. So when considering working in our callings at church, I could go on forever about this topic. How couples who have divorced, as you're trying to work with them in the church and how that affects your work in your service, it's devastating, and it can really affect an organization. You know, each auxiliary, whether it's the bishopric or the young women's organization or the Relief Society, primary, whatever. It's when people are going through that, I mean, it's like they can't even function correctly. So if I see that at church and how they're not able to fulfill their calling and help other people, you can only imagine when you take that and put it into the workforce of their job that they're doing to provide for their family. It's just, it's a disaster.
I guess you can say with family issues also that it follows you everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, you're thinking about it, you want to tell people, I don't know.
Yeah.
This world's a big drama and, I don't know, gossipy world, too.
Right.
Yeah. Joey, do you have any experience in the divorce/family issues? Maybe not. You're very glitchy.
Yes.
We'll just move on. I can't hear you at all.
His microphone's off now.
Yeah, your microphone keeps turning on and off, and then, yeah, I don't know. We'll just move on.
Okay.
We'll talk about workplace dating and relationships. Josh, do you have any of those?
I don't. I work with a bunch of married people. I don't see any dating problems going on at all in the workforce.
Okay, I have one. This one actually just has recently happened in the last month. One of the counselors where I work, he just got a divorce within the last year. And there's this lady that brings a couple kids in, of her kids, and gets counseling, and he does all three of the kids. She gets to be kind of in the same room with her kids sometimes. And she has asked us, personally, hey, is this guy single? He doesn't wear a ring.
Yeah.
And so I guess relationships, when people come into the workplace, it's kind of easier just to say you're not allowed to date your clients or anybody in the workplace. Because I don't think I've had any experience with people dating within the workplace. I haven't. But yeah.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. It only impacts the workplace just because it's awkward most of the time. Or the rule and they're not supposed to be doing that. And to address the issue is to just bring it up to them, or in a meeting just reminding people that they're not supposed to.
Right. I could only imagine how bad it'd get anyways, if they were to break up.
Oh, yeah.
And they work next together in the same area, that'd be bad.
Yeah, well, you can also look at kids dating in the same class, like in college, and then breaking up, and then they just completely hate each other, but they still have to sit by each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually had an experience like that in high school. I dumped my girlfriend, and we had to sit by each other with all our classes, and yeah, it didn't go so good. So, anyways, do you guys have any other experiences with, I guess, workplace dating?
No.
That one's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Okay, same-sex relationships. Anything?
Nothing. I haven't seen that either.
Not ones that relate to the workplace.
Yeah, so I don't have one that connects to the workplace, but I have a friend. He's dating he's been gay for about 10 years now, but he didn't come out until like 2 years ago. And he is just happy that he came out, and his Facebook posts are everything about same-sex relationships. But like we were talking about earlier, I'm guessing this topic really just heads towards a different topic also, or it's the domino effect, because now he's into marijuana, like a lot. Like every single day he's Snapchatting about how he smoked with his gay friend or all that stuff. Yeah, there's not really as much, just because we're in the LDS church. I guess we haven't really experienced that as much.
Right.
But okay, so I guess those are the only things. Unless, do you guys have any other experiences that you think we need to talk about?
No.
Okay. Okay, so this is the last part. It's supposed to take 10 minutes, but let's see if it actually does. Okay, so what are some other issues, or I guess topics, that we see today in society that impacts the workplaces of the future, I guess, or just workplaces in the future that are happening now?
I think that what the articles were talking about regarding personal relationships and being connected, with so many jobs going online and with technology just increasing at rapid rates, I think that issue of those personal connections is a big deal. And I think it's interesting that this topic is our last one for the week, because I've kind of compared it to this our group, this Hangout on Air each week, right? And how it's kind of tricky to work with technology and get us all on the same page and know what we're talking about. And right, when you look back at the beginning of the semester when we were trying to figure everything out, and on all of our texts and our communication was kind of like confusing, and I don't know what you're saying, and can you clarify that? And versus now we kind of have it down. I thought that was really an interesting I guess perspective, that it's important that that we have these weekly meetings and that we're able to meet face to face and have that personal communication with one another.
So true. Like I think about like all the discussions that we've had over the course of this semester, and like how we've talked about how communication is so key to resolving so many problems, and where communication is starting to lack more with technology and different things in the workplace. Yeah, that I can see as a big problem. I agree.
When you said that, April, the contacts, I thought about the article that says older workers who you may want to keep on because of their skills or contacts will want to work differently, more flexible, and less.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't to bash against any teachers that I've had, but I'm sure Josh knows about Brother Tolman.
Yep.
Yeah. So he is, I don't know. I have a lot about like opinion biases against him, which is why I am not taking any more classes from him. But that is exactly who he is. The only reason he still has the job is because of how many contacts he has and how many internships he can help the kids get. So it's just kind of annoying because I've heard many times like he was supposed to get fired and someone else was supposed to replace him, but they just won't because of all the people he knows. And I think technology is going to be a huge thing in the future. That's going to be a problem. It's either going to be useful or it's going to be just because you have contacts.
Mm-hmm.
You want to work less because you know more people. Is there any other? I guess we can just talk about this last one. I'm sure we can think about more of other issues and topics in the future. Okay, so how do you think the workplace will change in the next 10 years?
I'd be curious to see how many more people will be working from home, kind of like the articles we're talking about. If you have like everyone at home and there's no place where everyone comes together for work, I don't know. I guess it depends on the facility too and what you're doing, but
I think it'll continue to be technology driven. I don't know how much experience you guys have in the medical field yet, but
Very little.
I've had a lot of our doctor's appointments now online. Now they do have you ever done that? You know, your face-to-face doctor's appointment. My daughter, when she tore her ACL, our first initial visit was Skyping. And, you know,
that's cool.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So I just think I think it will go more towards that direction. And when you think about every job, I think in my mind, every job, can it be put into like an online technology format? And a lot of them can.
Yeah. Really, a single app can do so much too. Because in another class, I can't remember which one, but they were talking about how apps are made for specific people. So like if someone needs a heart replacement and their heart rate's going up too fast, their phone's connected to their heart with like a pacemaker, and that app will send a notification to the hospital saying this person's heart rate's going up, go visit them, type of thing. So yeah, I do agree with the technology. It's going to be interesting just because we're going to be right in the middle of all of that.
Yeah. Well, just look at school, right? I never would have been able to finish my degree had it not been for online schooling, right?
And I was thinking too, in high school, or at least when I was in high school, like there was like iPhone 3 just barely came out. Like hardly can do anything. Everybody was jailbreaking it and doing all that. But today, like a lot of schools buy laptops for their kids and all that, if the community can afford it, basically. But it's going to be really interesting to see how education is going to change too.
All three of our schools. I have kids in elementary, middle, and high school, and they all have iPads.
Oh.
Wow.
Actually, it reminds me, my high school teacher also was like, I bet you anything in the next 20 years, all your books are going to be on an iPad. Which is probably going to happen.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Whole nother soapbox. Oh.
Any other changes you two can think of? Or might happen?
I would think that there would be more face-to-face communications. Like this will be enhanced. I think because, the articles were talking about how the biggest problem with technology is that people lack that personal relationship, right? That personal feel of an office and that connectedness. So I would think that because of that, more companies would spend more resources and time learning how to improve this type of conversation and media. So like building more of those hubs that they talked about, or, just having, improving this so that maybe it'll be more simple, right? Because we have all these glitches and it's tricky sometimes, but I just think they'll keep improving this aspect of it.
That's cool. I really can't think of anything else.
I've got nothing.
Because really everything's going to revolve around technology. And if technology somehow just disappears in 10 years, then we'll just have to go back to the old paper stuff. But that's not going to happen. So unless there's like a huge war and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we can end. Do you guys want to talk about doohickeys before we go? It's
Sure.
Jovi and Kent aren't here, and they're the ones. I had my email pulled up, but I don't have it anymore. But it's really simple.
It's just 2 problems, right?
Yeah, 2 problems. I think it said 4 solutions. So I was wondering if, or like 4 solutions per problem. I was wondering if people, like someone wanted to just be in charge of doing like the problem introduction, like the 1 or 2 paragraphs of the problem in doohickeys, and then like finish the introduction and do a lot of the conclusion, and then everyone else will just have like 2 things. I don't know. It kind of helps balance.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's a good idea. So since there's 5 of us, who's gonna do what?
Yeah, so we can still do 5 solutions. It's just we don't need to do 5 solutions.
Yeah.
Because the whole semester it's been 4 solutions. We just made it easier for everyone doing 5 solutions. 2 days.
So we just need then, so 4 people will do
Solutions.
solutions, and the 5th person will do the intro and the conclusion.
And the 2 problem paragraphs.
Right.
Because the introduction is basically already written. You need to write like 2 more paragraphs, or 2 more sentences, 3 more sentences. And then they'll write the problems, and then help, and everyone should be helping with the conclusion.
Right.
But was layoffs and what was the second problem? Just
Workplace environment.
Workplace.
so really we can do any of the topics we talked about today.
I can do the problem statements. Should we just call them that?
Yeah, the problem statements.
Okay.
That works.
I'll do the problem statements and the introduction and conclusion.
Okay.
Adding on to that.
Okay, and then I'll just put, like I've been doing, who's in charge of what solution.
Okay.
And I'll probably just text them right now. Text Jovi and Kent about what we're doing.
Okay.
And then I'll leave that like a paragraph saying in Google Docs about everything. So, okay. I guess we're finished for the semester.
All right.
Probably see you.
Good meeting you all.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too. and the other
Yeah.
two.
Yep. And Kent.
Yeah.
And Jovi.
Yeah. Well, have a
Merry
good
Christmas.
Christmas break.
Hey, you guys too.
Drive safe.
You too, huh?
See ya.
See ya.